Prepositions for advanced learners. Now, there is not much material that is truly advanced about prepositions, but some of it needs addressing, and this is what we are going to do. Let's start with this technical term, adpositions. Adposition is a catch-all term that basically covers three types of words: prepositions that come before the modified word, postpositions come after, and those that can go either before or after are called ambipositions. The English language has all three kinds of adpositions, so let's start with the postpositions. You may not be familiar with the term and you think that ago is just a funny word that we tack onto a noun phrase, but that is a postposition. Think about that, okay? A short while ago. Aside, as in the expression all joking aside, is an adposition. It modifies the term joking, just like ago modifies short while. Okay? They are not really that common, but we should know that that's the way they work. Ambipositions. In this particular case, I selected two adpositions that are, part of the C1, C2 curriculum. Hence its name. You use it when you explain an origin, a reason for a name or anything else. 4 years hence is less common. You will not come across that very often. But notwithstanding something, or something notwithstanding, like his excellent work notwithstanding. The meaning is basically however, nonetheless, nevertheless, but it works as a preposition, although some dictionaries describe it as an adverb sometimes. So prepositions, that's our business today, is a word placed before a noun, a verb, or adjective that shows its relation to the other words in the text. Now, that's the reason why I believe prepositions are basically the glue that binds a text together. We use them all the time. For instance, you see this man on an island. We don't have a choice there. We are not allowed to say at or in an island. When we learn the verb dupe, we are expected to also learn the preposition. I was duped into believing, just like we say brainwashed into believing or coaxed into believing. So in those cases, we have one option. And that makes our life very easy. When we learn encroach, we are used to seeing that with on. So the farmers are encroaching on the tiger's habitat, dispense with the pleasantries. There's a reason for this. Oh, congratulations on your promotion. He was oblivious to the scandal around him, and the tree was laden with fruit. Again, when you learn laden, you have to learn with, otherwise you cannot really use the adjective. So let's look at nouns, adjectives, and verbs. Let's start with the nouns. Now, we should pay attention. It's like crossing a street. You have to look both ways. A variation on something. Just like you say, I am on a farm, not in a farm. We saw that about island. Well, farm behaves the same way. So a variation on the same theme, that's how you speak. She grew up on a farm. I think if you learn the chunk, I grew up on a farm, chances are you will not even have an option to make a mistake and, say in a farm. So again, learning vocabulary in chunks makes your life easier. They issued a statement in response to the complaints. Now, I know this is simple, but when you are a C1, C2 speaker, you're not supposed to make any sort of mistakes regarding this. There are other kinds of mistakes that you can make, but maybe not this, all right? So the plot thickens. Two options. Let's take love and key. Basic enough vocabulary. So what is the preposition that goes with it? Well, love takes two. Of and for. And the meaning is almost the same, but there is a slight difference. My love of books suggests that I already love them. So you're just commenting on something that exists. I want to instill the love for literature in my children. That would be maybe the difference. They do not possess that yet. Key 2 and key 4 are a different case to me, because only key 2, the key to success, to me that is correct. The key 4, the door, a lot of speakers use that. I would say this is correct and this should be frowned upon. Again, it's not about right or wrong, is standard, non-standard. It's probably a matter of style. Verbs. Okay, 2 options again to make matters more interesting. We have think and consist. Simple, right? Okay, so what is the difference between think of and think about? There's a slight difference there. I had never thought of that. It means that I had never contemplated that. Whereas when you say think about, there's a mental process involved there. Sometimes you will see no difference whatsoever when you say, when I think about you, when I think of you. Maybe think of you sounds slightly more lyrical. Maybe, just maybe. Consist of and in is different, because the difference is obvious. The team consists of 3 children, means it is made up of. They make up the team. So you're talking about parts and of a collective, of a group. Whereas consist in is just is a definition. Liberty consists. That's what it is about. Now, when you learn vocabulary, the noun havoc, there are 3 verbs maybe in the English language that can combine with havoc. Wreak havoc is the most frequent combination, and the preposition is on. So what happens if you see wreak havoc with? Yes, some people use it. I don't, but some people do. I prefer I use it with when I say play havoc with, wreak havoc on. Like I said, you can say with wreak and as well. But you should be ready to encounter these sort of perplexing combinations. Sometimes you might think, which one is correct? Maybe both are correct. Anyway, 2 plus ing, there's nothing to that when you're a native speaker, but 2 plus ing is confusing to most learners because you're used to 2 plus infinitive. Now let's look at these verbs. All of them take 2. So let's analyze this for a second. A life devoted to, and then ing, seeking, and then is a life committed to plus ing. I don't believe it's a coincidence. Probably the writer wanted to use the same grammatical structure to make a point. But devote to is like commit to. You can commit to something or to an activity. So I devote my life to your work, or making, which is the nominalized form of a verb. So effectively a noun. Contribute to, again, a noun, or reducing, which is the idea of, again, it's and for all intents and purposes that's a noun. And limit yourself to, you just have to deal with it. That's the way you use it. Discussing, get round to doing something, and you get back not to do something, which would be in order to do something. This is different. You return to that activity. Like I said in the first slide, we should go one case at a time, but not be surprised by this combination. You should get used to dealing with it. Adjectives, again, 2 options. So you say respectful to or of. It all comes down to the nature of the object of the preposition. When you refer to something is of. So you should be respectful to someone, just like you're kind to someone, you're nice to someone, and of something. Afraid is a little bit more complex because you can be afraid of something or someone, but only afraid for someone. Case in point, this young man here. It's easy to imagine that he's not afraid of heights, but his parents might be afraid for him, okay? So in real life, we see prepositions in a context. Look at this. Lost to, all right? Just like in sports, we lost to this team. Now, in on tenterhooks, on goes with tenterhooks, not with the verb. So the verb is not keep on, is the expression. I am on tenterhooks, you keep me on tenterhooks. Agree, well, I agree with you on this. It takes two prepositions. When you learn east, remember it's on the east coast, on the coast, but in the east. It can be confusing. There is more to him. It's an expression that meets the eye. And sometimes look at these two words. Some grammarians will say, well, it's technically an adverb. Up is an adverb there. I'm not concerned with that at this point. It functions like a preposition, and it's two words, which leads us to complex prepositions that we are going to see later. So please notice this. Now, this is truly advanced. The difference between till and until is a slight difference in register. Until is less casual. On and upon, when you wish upon a star, once upon a time. Upon is more literary. To and unto, well, unto we don't use in spoken English, but you will find it in texts. In place of, instead of, have this glorified form, sophisticated, because it's French. The word lieu is French, in lieu of. Okay, towards are just forms of the same word technically. And there is not much of a difference in style, all right? Not much. As in that case, towards, some people might use to. But if we discuss Confucius, that is ancient China philosophy, and we quote the golden rule that he basically was famous for. He's probably the first philosopher that made it popular. There have been other versions. Don't do unto others. There could be an updated version of it. Don't do to others what you don't want to, But if you quote Confucius, you have to use unto. If you quote the King James Bible, that particular translation, you are expected to be faithful to the original text and say the Lord spake, not spoke, and unto Joshua, not to. There are modern versions of it, but if you quote the Elizabethan translation, you have to use unto, okay? So, slight recap. This is really practical, I think. When you're about to use your English and talk about respect, do you really know if you're going to use a verb, an adjective, or a noun? Chances are you will say, you have to, oh my God, and then something clicks in your head, oh, I have to use a verb. So how does it work? Do I need a preposition? No, there is no preposition in this case. Just like sometimes we leave out the preposition. Check this out. I'll see you Monday. We should say on Monday, but in casual speech, you just drop it. She's home instead of at home. Okay, so assuming you want to use an adjective, because I was very, oh my God, yeah, you don't need a verb there. It's an adjective that you need to make use of. So respectful of their beliefs, and you show respect for his family. This is in itself quite easy, but in the heat of the moment, you have to juggle lots of balls, and if you pay attention to the pronunciation, or you're focusing on the word that you want to use after the idea of respect, you might not pay attention to the grammatical category. So you need to know all of them and nail them, all right? Nail the use of the preposition. Again, more advanced stuff, unusual prepositions. You are unlikely to come across this, okay? But athwart, athwart. In opposition to betwixt is not Old English, that is medieval, archaic. Let's put it that way. So it's nautical English or extremely formal English. Betwixt is virtually defunct. In spoken English, you don't use it unless you try and be funny. That's different. Sans, meaning without, is also archaic. I remember that poem by Shakespeare, sans teeth. And Dior belongs in the legal world, so it's legalese, written English for lawyers. And or is more common. You find it in Christmas carols and old poems, or even modern day poems, I suppose, in a certain kind of lyrical literature. You might resort to that. Comic Sans, that is a modern example of the use of sans. Sans serif, probably. Athwart, you stand athwart, so it's the complete opposite point, standing athwart history, okay? Compound prepositions, just think of them as one preposition, in accordance with, in compliance with FIFA regulations. He called it thingy, for lack of a better word. A view to, with a view to, it's interesting because it takes ing, with a view to. I am doing this with a view to improving instead of in order to. It's more posh. For the sake of, these are just formulas. So I will say it in layman terms for the sake of simplicity, or for the sake of it, or for the sake of argument. But again, this is not material that intermediate speakers use. Little section devoted to buy off. All these expressions have the same structure. He succeeded by dint of hard work. Okay, we could say by working hard, but this is about style, not about meaning. All right, by means of means through the use of. Again, sort of a higher form of English, by means of webinars. Through the force of, force, virtue shares the same origin as virile, which is vir, the Latin word for man. It's connected with force, physical force. But in practical terms is as a result of. So, as a result of her connections, by virtue of her connections, by way of, for the purpose of, by way of example, all right? Whom, this is the woman with whom I am going out. She's a woman in whom I can place my confidence. Who talks like that? Probably this man, when he refers to this lady. So what I'm trying to tell you is this is extremely formal, stuck up, I would say a little haughty. If you talk like that, you need to probably use a certain kind of an accent. But in the war between whom and who, this is what's going on. Who is clearly winning. So why am I talking about this? Well, because when you use a preposition, you have to use whom. Okay, this is not an 18th century lady, and this guy belongs in the 21st century. This girl might say, this is the guy I'm dating, so no prepositions involved. This is what you can do when you're not sure about your prepositions. But if you want to use go out, you say, this is the guy I'm going out with. And that is perfectly okay. And he's not only cool, he's got a brain. Look at the stuff that he reads. For whom? Okay, that's what you do. After for, you cannot say who, you say for whom. All right? It's necessary sometimes. If we hear about a rescue operation that involves a police officer and his dog, and we don't have clear ideas as to, who was the hero, we can ask, who saved whom? Go. Who, that is nominative, whom, accusative. And this woman, it's to whom am I speaking? You can say, who am I talking to? Okay, who am I talking to? But this would be more prim and proper. You to whom am I asking? So that's what you do, all right? In case. Is that necessary? Well, in this sentence, it is necessary. From contracting diseases to which they have no immunity. The text is serious. They're talking about legislation. They're talking about, well, this is taken from a Wikipedia article about this Aboriginal tribe. It's scholarly in the tone, so we need that to which. All right. And we're about to finish with two sample texts. Now, these two random texts that I chose for you show you the ubiquitous nature of prepositions. Look at them. You know, they are all over the place because they are really the glue that keeps a text together. So remember that while your vocabulary may be advanced and sophisticated, it's the prepositions sometimes that become like the icing on the cake. And some of them may be quite unusual. They may only crop up in legal texts or academic documents, but you show your advanced command of the language when you nail every single one of them without hesitation and with accuracy. Okay? Now, I do hope that you have found some of this stuff useful for your advanced English. Bye.